Los Angeles is on fire. Again. Mobs are looting high-end stores, blocking highways, and overwhelming law enforcement. The media calls it a reaction to injustice, to inequality, to Trump. They say it's political, cultural, emotional. But what if that's just the surface? What if all of this chaos isn't a reaction at all, but a rehearsal? A script that keeps getting played every few years, right on schedule. Because every time cities burn, something else happens. Not in the streets, but in the background. Quiet changes, new policies, new surveillance, new rules. And once they're in place, they don't go away. So maybe the question isn't who's rioting. Maybe it's who's watching, and what they're waiting for. Los Angeles is in chaos. Streets are blocked, cars are torched, businesses are burning. The skyline glows with smoke as rioters clash with police in a city that looks more like a war zone than a cultural capital. It started, as it usually does, with protests. Thousands of demonstrators flooded the streets in response to a wave of ICE raids targeting illegal aliens across Southern California. What began as political outrage quickly turned into open revolt. Buildings were looted, police cruisers flipped, and entire blocks set ablaze. Videos show firebombs thrown into storefronts, makeshift barricades of burning tires, and smashed cars. But what happened next raised even more eyebrows. The Trump administration, bypassing California's governor, deployed more than 2,000 National Guard troops and nearly 700 Marines into Los Angeles. Federal vehicles rolled in, drones buzzed overhead, streets were flooded with military gear. And as the violence escalated, Trump made it clear he wasn't interested in negotiating. He publicly stated that if he were in charge of border security, he'd arrest Governor Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass for obstructing federal enforcement. The White House framed it as restoring order. State leaders called it a federal power grab. But while both sides pointed fingers, the city kept burning. Curfews failed. Entire neighborhoods fell into lockdown. And somehow, despite the full force of military intervention, no one could seem to stop the chaos. Or worse, maybe no one wanted to. This isn't the first time Los Angeles has erupted. And every time it does, the chaos seems to follow a familiar script. In 1992, the Rodney King verdict triggered days of rioting. More than 60 people killed, over 2,000 injured, entire neighborhoods reduced to ash. The National Guard was deployed then too. And just like now, the destruction didn't stop right away. It lingered. It spread. And once it ended, the city was different. Policies had changed. Police were militarized. Surveillance expanded. Fast forward to 2020, the George Floyd riots. It started in Minneapolis, but quickly reached LA. Curfews were issued. Highways shut down. Businesses destroyed. And once again, it wasn't just about the protests. It was about what came after. By the end of that summer, cities across America had quietly accepted the once unthinkable. Drone surveillance, AI-powered street cams, armored police units, and sweeping new emergency powers that never fully went away. And now, 2025, another wave of unrest, different spark, same result, federal intervention, states losing control, fear rising, and the quiet rollout of new tools to manage it all. That's the pattern. It always starts the same. It always ends the same. Chaos, followed by control. But if this keeps repeating, maybe the question isn't why it's happening. Maybe it's why now. There's a name for this pattern. It's not new. It's not fringe. In fact, it's been used by governments, corporations, and intelligence agencies for centuries. It's called the Hegelian dialectic. Or, more simply, problem, reaction, solution. Step 1. Create a problem, or allow one to spiral out of control. In this case, widespread civil unrest. Let the protests escalate. Let the cities burn. Step 2. Amplify the public's reaction. People demand action. They beg for order. They trade freedom for safety. And then comes step 3. Offer the solution. One that's already written, already packaged, already waiting. In LA, That solution came wrapped in camo, National Guard troops, federal drones, surveillance towers deployed under the banner of temporary emergency response. But what happens when the temporary part disappears? We've seen it before. After 9/11s, the Patriot Act was passed in days. 2 decades later, it's still being used. In 2020, contact tracing was introduced as a way to manage a virus, but it also normalized mass location tracking and biometric surveillance. Now, in 2025, the playbook looks familiar. Manufactured disorder, followed by centralized control. And every time it happens, the system tightens just a little more. The question is, who keeps writing the script? Here's where things get even stranger. Because what's happening in LA doesn't look like a chaotic emergency. It looks like a test, a case study. And when you zoom out, the signs are everywhere. Weeks before the riots, federal agencies were quietly expanding their urban readiness initiatives in Los Angeles. DHS and FEMA partnered with LAPD for what they called simulation drills, scenarios involving widespread unrest, mass migration, and citywide lockdowns. Drones equipped with facial recognition began appearing in known protest zones. AI-powered surveillance networks, previously labeled as pilot programs, were activated in full force. And behind the scenes, tech contractors were handed multi-million-dollar emergency surveillance contracts without public bidding. One of them, according to leaked documents, had been testing geofencing capabilities and predictive policing algorithms modeled after crowd behavior. Why now? Why here? Because LA isn't just a city, it's a stage, a place where new policies can be tested, normalized, and exported to every other urban center in the country. What starts as temporary containment in LA could become permanent infrastructure in Chicago, New York, Atlanta. And the people pushing these tools, they're not elected, they're not accountable, and they're not talking. Which begs the question, are they testing crowd control or public compliance? So what's the end game? If LA is the test case, what are they really testing? The answer might not be about riots at all. It might be about resetting the rules of urban life. Think about it. After each wave of unrest, the new systems never go away. The surveillance remains, the military equipment stays, and the next time around, it gets activated faster, more efficient, more automatic. And now in 2025, something different is happening. We're not just seeing a crackdown, we're seeing the architecture of a new kind of city being laid brick by brick in the ashes of the old one. The so-called smart city upgrades being pushed in LA, automated license plate readers, biometric checkpoints, AI drone patrols, are being quietly aligned with another agenda, centralized digital control. Control over movement, control over access, control over money. Already, some blocks in LA are being tested for geofence enforcement, where citizens can't enter or exit zones during active emergencies. The model looks eerily similar to the 15-minute city concept, where everything is tracked, monitored, and restricted within assigned zones. But here's the catch. None of it could have been implemented without a crisis. The riots justified it. The panic accelerated it. And the public, scared, angry, exhausted, let it happen. That's the real pattern. Not just problem, reaction, solution, but chaos, compliance, control. And once that control grid is fully in place, there may be no way back. Maybe the most dangerous part of all this is how familiar it's starting to feel. The pattern, the panic, the promise of safety if you just comply. We're told it's all temporary, that it's for our own good. But history says otherwise. Because every time the system expands, it never contracts. Every time freedom is restricted, it's never fully restored. And every time the public is told, this is the last time, it never is. So what if the riots weren't a breakdown of order, but the justification for a new kind of order? What if the streets had to burn so the systems could be installed? LA may just be the beginning, a blueprint, a live fire simulation of how to collapse a city and rebuild it in the image of total control. And if that's true, then the real question isn't how this happened. It's what happens next.